KFC has been announced as a SSR character that can be summoned at any time within the heroic summon banner. And yes, Phoenix Man is referred to as KFC on most of the other servers, so you're going to have to deal with that terminology now. In today's video, I'll be going through everything you need to know about KFC and whether or not he is worth pulling for. So let's get into the pros and cons about him. So with his pros, he is a versatile monster unit, meaning that he can be built either as an attacker or as a tank. So you can either use him to inflict DPS damage towards the back row, or make him tanky to accommodate for his high amounts of reviving. He synergizes very well with Giro, not just as an Esper to fill in for Giro's core, but can also inflict higher amounts of damage if he is placed within the same row as Giro, which I will go more in depth over when talking about his passive. He can counter single target back row DPS attackers such as Red Mosquito Girl and Sonic V2, as he will be able to revive multiple times, which will be annoying for those burst units. He is considered as a PvE unit, where he will shine against bosses such as Club Boss Boros and against the Hero X villain bosses for your monster team, as well as your team for villain tournaments. And as of now, he'll be released in the heroic summons, so he can be summoned with your red heroic tickets at any given time, which is really great, especially for free-to-play and newer players who missed out on getting Zombie Man. Now in regards to his cons, unfortunately his metaspan will only last for about 1 to 2 months, since Bomb is literally around the corner, so the devs decided to release KFC at a really bad time, which is stupid, but it is what it is. At least you can get KFC at any time now. Another con is that he'll also be countered by AoE nukers such as Genos or ATT, as if they are able to nuke most of your team within the first couple of ticks, then Phoenix Man will be rendered useless if your teammates are dead, since his passive relies on his allies being alive. The reason why he doesn't have too many cons is because he's not really a very useful unit in the future of the game. So there's not really much that's bad about him, but he's already pretty outdated by the time he gets released, especially when Bomb comes out. Anyways, so let's get into his attack skills. For his basic attack, he attacks a single enemy, dealing 120% of his attack. For his ultimate attack, he attacks all enemies in the back row, dealing 150% of his attack. And he has a 70% chance to burn those enemies for 2 turns, which the burn damage is based on 20% of his max HP. And if you have his keepsake, you unlock his ultra ultimate attack, in which he will attack all enemies in the back row, dealing 180% of his attack. And he'll have a 100% chance to burn those enemies for 2 turns, which the burn damage is based on 25% of his max HP. So with this, he'll be very useful for PvE, such as against Club Boss Boros, as if you don't have RMG or she isn't strong enough to kill off the back row, then Phoenix Man will be very helpful taking them out, as well as being able to revive and tank against Boros' ult. Moving on to his passive skills, so once Phoenix Man is defeated, he'll be able to trigger Regenerate, where he can revive up to 3 times per battle. Now during which, if his allies are still alive, he'll be healed for 15% of his max HP when his Regenerate is triggered. He will also deal 35% of his missing HP as extra damage when attacking. So because of this feature in particular, this is why he synergizes very well with Giro when they are in the same column with each other, as Giro's passive will be able to share the damage taken with Phoenix Man, which will quicken the depletion of Phoenix Man's HP and ultimately make him deal more damage as quickly as possible. If you limit break KFC to 5 stars, he'll be able to trigger Regenerate up to 4 times per battle, and he'll be healed for 20% of his max HP when his Regenerate is triggered. He'll also deal 40% of his missing HP as extra damage when attacking. Another additional nifty feature that he does gain is that his own speed is doubled when Regenerate is triggered, which can drastically change the flow of a battle, especially for PvP scenarios. And if you manage to unlock his 5-star awakening, he'll be able to trigger Regenerate up to 5 times per battle. And he'll be healed for 22% of his max HP when his Regenerate is triggered. He'll also deal 45% of his missing HP as extra damage when attacking. So going through his skills, realistically, no one should be unlocking his 5-star awakening, as you should be prioritizing your awakening materials on other espers such as RMG or ATT, as they provide much more value than Phoenix Man, so I wouldn't recommend pulling for his keepsake. But he is still a pretty good unit, so I just wouldn't get his keepsake in particular, since it will be quite expensive if it's in the claw machine, which is most likely the case. Moving on to his enhancements, so for his talent page, his page 3 talents aren't important to unlock since there is no additional unyielding buff. So I'd recommend at most to unlock his page 2 talents like Zombie Man, and you don't really need to unlock his 3rd page. For his damage sigils, you can use either sword sigils to maximize his damage, or pain sigils to maximize his burn damage. And for his support sigils, you can use either vitality sigils to buff up his max HP to do even more damage from his passive, or chaos sigils to increase the ult damage reduction. And since ATT is out, I'd also recommend using rebellion sigils, since resistance will allow you to reduce the 100% chance that ATT has on inflicting force field onto Phoenix Man. In regards to limit breaking him, upgrading him to 3 stars should be fine, as he really shouldn't be highly invested in, especially since most important espers such as RMG or ATT should be your top priority units for your esper materials. Or even if you already have Zombie Man, then you don't really need to invest into Phoenix Man as much. However, if you just purely focus on PvE or Phoenix Man is important for your lineup, then you can 4-star him at most. However, if you really want to, you can 5-star him to unlock his buff on doubling his speed, as well as being able to revive 4 times, but I would only recommend it if you are heavily invested into PvP, especially in Live Clash. Or if you want to increase the amount of revives he can do against Club Boss Boros. Otherwise, there's not really a rush in getting him to 5 stars straight away. And in regards to his awakening, at a minimum, get him up to 2-star awakening to attain his crit buffs. However, you can 3-star awaken him only if you intend to use him in PvP and or Live Clash. Otherwise, leave him at 2-star awakening at most. And for all of you whales out there, I'd highly recommend not pulling for his keepsake, since you probably have Janos, RMG or ATT to focus all of your resources on, but I won't stop you from doing so since you've got enough money to shut me up, so I will move on now. In regards to his gears, so for his gear setup, you'd ideally want a primal set to help do bonus damage to the front row, but using other sets such as battle or formal can be viable as well, but just not as effective compared to primal. For his gear setup, you'd want all HP gears to buff his passive, and for his substats, you want all 4 gears to have HP bonus on them. Now, if you're competitive in PvP, however, you may want to put 1 or 2 speed gears on him, especially if you have limit broke him to 5 stars, since his speed does double, so you can try and test this setup out if you do so. And for his buff gears, all of them should have HP, with your villain gear having HP bonus and flat HP, your esper gear having flat HP and either hit rate or resistance, and your demon gear having flat HP and damage reduction rate. And if you manage to get an augmentation from upgrading your demon gear, getting a burn augmentation would work well with KFC. Now I'll be going into the main takeaways from this unit. He's basically the monster variant of Zombie Man due to his high amount of reviving. He's also prioritized as a PvE unit unlike PvP, but he can show results in PvP if you invested a good amount of materials into him. Other than that, there's not really much reason you'd want to pull for him unless you weren't able to pull for Zombie Man, so I'd only really recommend pulling for him if you missed out on Zombie Man. But if you do have enough heroic tickets, then you can pull for him whenever you want, since he'll be a permanent character in the heroic summons, which is really good for newer players in the game. So should you pull for Phoenix Man? For all types of spenders, he is a good pull, as you don't need to invest heavily into him and you can just get him for your figurines. But if you do save your heroic tickets, such as what I always do, then he is a good pull to have, as he can be very useful in PvE situations, as well as having a reviving unit for your villain lineups, which is really good since no one else will be filling that slot for your monster lineups. And my preference is that I will be pulling for him since I do have enough red tickets to pull for him. But I don't think I'll be heavily investing into him, but he will be very useful for my monster lineup. And a quick update on my predicted timeline. As stated in my previous review video on Awakened Vaccine Man, it should either be Sonic V2 or Galewind who will be on the August banner in my opinion. Then the one left out will be in September. And I'm still unsure what the anniversary has awaited for us, so many units such as Siru, Drive Knight, and Bomb are still in the air at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see what Moontoon announces later on during August. And that's it for today's video. If you want to stay up to date with everything you need to know about One Punch Man the Strongest, then subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell in order to stay updated on every video I release, in order to make your One Punch Man account the strongest. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and a comment down below if you have any questions about my video or possible future content. Until next time.